uh, folks who joined in. Jaipal and I have been good friends now for a couple of years. Jaipal has been instrumental in helping CashFlow also think about its own product roadmap, and he's someone I've known to, bring in some really keen insights on the finance front. Also, big proponent of technology in finance, and whenever I speak to him, I definitely come out learning something new about innovations happening in the finance space. So, super excited to have you here, Jaipal. One interesting thing I learned recently is Jaipal also sort of mentors a lot of startups from time to time in helping them navigate from a business standpoint. So, yeah, all in all, super excited to have you. And, I think our audience will love to hear your perspectives on technology and finance overall. So, welcome again.
Thanks, Ankur. Thanks for having me. I mean, honor and privilege both to have you as a host. We have, like you said, we have been known, we've known each other for a couple of years now and have been only discussing business. Good to see you in this context and happy to be here.
Awesome. So, Jaipal, the idea is, to perhaps, just hear from you on how you think about technology and finance to begin with, right? Let's just start there. In my experience talking to a lot of finance leaders, the one thing I hear consistently is that, digital in finance is no longer an option. It's a necessity, right? So it's no more about sort of looking at, oh, is there a business case for, digitizing our processes or not? It's more about, how do we grow? And if we have to grow, then, we need to fundamentally think about digitizing. But where I have seen people face challenges is thinking about what's the right framework to think about technology in finance. What should we prioritize? What area should we, automate first? Where should we invest? Right. So these are some questions that we sort of hear constantly from a lot of finance leaders. Would love to get your perspective on how do you think about technology in finance and what's a good framework, out there.
Sure. Sure, Ankur. I mean, like you rightly put, it's no longer it's more than a necessity. I feel it's hygiene. The way we have been looking at digitization or automation in finance is it's hygiene. Without that, it's almost impossible to run businesses these days, particularly businesses which are large, spread geographically, spread in terms of categories, channels, in terms of countries. Now, I mean, for example, I look after 6 countries. I have teams in all the 6 countries. All of them roll up here, but then unless you really have a framework on which the whole structure can be managed, I think it would be very, very difficult. In terms of how to look at technology in finance, I think one point which majorly comes up with us, I mean, included finance folks, is should we invest here or not, right? I mean, the even though the benefits are clear, we clearly know that there is a benefit. I think that everybody has passed that stage, that is it beneficial or not. I think the point comes to, is it worth it or not? I mean, I'm more going to, because this session is largely, and then participants who are there are also largely from the finance domain. Sometimes it also gets into a payback sort of a discussion. So the way we see it, or the way I see it, and I have been seeing it for a while now in terms of automation and digitization and the investments into that, is the payback should be looked at from 3 perspectives. I look at it as a triangle. One is obviously a mathematical payback of, this is the investment, these are the benefits, this is how it will recover, and X number of years, and all of that, the cost of capital. I'm not getting into those details. There is a fixed formula which all of us finance folks look at. But I think there are 2 more angles. If I have to again look at it from a sort of a triangular input. One, like I said, is a mathematical payback. Second, I feel that there is a risk compliance. There is a framework to peace of mind. For example, I feel risk is something which you don't see. If we have seen something, then we know it as a risk, and all of us, you, me, Akshay, every participant here, will find a way to mitigate it. Right? For example, I'll take the example of COVID here. Before COVID came, nobody saw COVID as a risk, and therefore none of us were prepared, and it hit us very badly. But once COVID hit us, I think we came out very resilient just because we had the technology, we had the data, we started looking at, okay, how to break the chain, what needs to be done, and now it's no more a risk. Yeah. So risk is something which we don't see, and I feel technologists foresee many of the risks which we probably will not see on our own. Yeah, this is the second pillar I see. The compliance, for example, laws of the land. Now we are present in 6, 7 countries. Every country has a different framework. I'm only not talking about a statutory compliance, right? I mean, I'm also talking about every other compliance, whether the invoicing has to be done in a particular manner, whether the receivables have to manage in some particular manner. How do you manage all of that? And how do you, for me, how do I price in the peace of mind? If I have a technology running all the countries, all the sub processes and processes, the peace of mind which I get and the good sleep which I get is priceless. Very, very difficult to price that from a payback perspective, right? I'm coming back to same the three framework: mathematical payback, risk, compliance, and good sleep. And the last but not the least, which I feel has benefited me and the organizations I have worked for the most, is the intangible benefits which we get from automation. For example, the data which we get, the insights that we get, the decision making, which is far more data driven than a gut driven or than some Excel data driven, is unmatchable. I mean, I can, when we come later to particular examples, I can give you examples where we have immensely benefited from being able to take that right decision just because the data was there, and the data was there because there is a tool behind, and the tool behind is there because there is an automation and a digitization which we have done over the last 10 years. Those sharp decisions have helped. So, three framework: intangible benefits, the benefits of faster decision making, right decision. I mean, our CEO has a famous dialogue. He says that if there is data, let's go with that. If it is I mean, if a decision has to be based on data, if you have it, let's go with that. If it is based on opinion, let's go with mind, right? And that data is only possible through all the automation and digitization which we have invested in and must invest in over the next few years and over the last few years.
Yeah, I know that's interesting that you bring it up. I think, uh, layering on the intangible side to ROI or payback is something that doesn't easily come to number crunching finance professionals, right? It's always about the mathematical equation. But I think the two things you mentioned, right? Risk, peace of mind, and what additional benefits it enables over time, which is around availability of data to analyze. I think those are important dimensions on which perhaps companies can look at this. But tell me, does it become a challenge to then justify a case? And I don't know how ID functions, but in your experience, a case that is based not necessarily on the mathematical equation, let's say the mathematical equation doesn't necessarily in itself become the convincing argument.
Yeah.
Um, does management or the board ask for justifications beyond that, or like, is that enough to tell them, hey, look, there are intangible benefits here, so
Yeah.
we should still consider doing it? Is that an
Sure.
easy conversation or is that a difficult conversation?
No, see, there will be difficult conversations, obviously, and that is why we exist, right? If everything was easy, none of us would have existed. I think, the founders and the CEOs would have run it by themselves. I am happy that those difficult conversations exist, and that is why my existence is justified. But, first we need to be convinced. I am very convinced. Once you are convinced, you have the conviction. Once you have the conviction, and of course, with your experience, I think you will be able to articulate the discussion with the board, the CEO, the shareholders, the management, why this is necessary. I, for example, strongly believe in fact, that is a statement I've used sometimes in convincing my management that, look, a good solution might be expensive. A good solution might be expensive, but a bad one can cost you a fortune. Yeah. And with that, again, you're saying, the intangibles might be very difficult to put a number on. But then once you have even the theoretical intangible benefits, I think today's management boards are very receptive to it. And like the third pillar I said of the risk and compliance and the peace of mind, I think there is no price that can be attached to it.
Mm. And how do you and how does the management think about investing in technology from a function perspective? Right now, you have let's say the sales function, the marketing function, production, planning, etc., purchase functions, so on and so forth. And then finance, of course, as a function. Right now, historically, we've seen technology being adopted in all of these other functions, typically ahead of time. But finance tends to be a laggard. When it comes to allocating budgets, you being the CFO, how do you make those trade-offs? Because you don't have infinite money, I'm assuming, and then you have to allocate across functions and across different initiatives. So where does finance appear in that pecking order?
I mean, it depends on how you plan and what you see for finance, right? I mean, in fact, the way I have seen the implementation of technology in finance, probably in terms of absolute cost, is probably the lowest compared to a purchase or a manufacturing or sales or marketing. The other thing which the way I see it also is that unless it is implemented, see, these are all linked. We cannot, if you have one silo of manufacturing having a lot of technology, but it doesn't flow into finance or into the overall organization. How do I, as a CFO, see, my job is to weave in every function together, right? What manufacturing is saying, what sales is saying, or what the output is, what marketing is doing, what is the ROI from marketing, and how it has again flown back into sales. Because sales was higher, was a manufacturing, did I get the benefit? So I see that unless it is done in all the orgs together, when I'm saying org, I'm considering each function as an organization. If we don't weave it together, I think the benefit again is will not be that obvious. So, and the last function which probably decides where the organization's goals have been achieved or not is probably finance, because they take data from purchase to manufacturing to sales to collections to returns to profitability, balance sheet, working capital, cash availability, all of it. How does finance otherwise weave it together? So I am a great believer on in it has to be everywhere and it has to weave together in finance. And of course, like you said, resources are, always, the budgets are always constrained, but that strategy, right? How do you allocate finite resources against infinite opportunities is what strategy is in my view. Just that's in one word, I summarize my strategy as how do I allocate finite resources against infinite opportunities, and that is the role we play. That is the balancing we play, and it also plays out over a few years, right? We don't have to do everything in year one. We say that these are the things we do now, and we know that this is required, and even if I'm constrained for budget, I plan it for next quarter, I plan it for next year. And if
Yeah.
this is doing well,
Yeah.
I think overall technology cost as a part of the business is not as high also. I feel, we spend a lot more on probably marketing, digital marketing, ATLs, BTLs. So this, I'm not sure we should really look at from
Mm.
a very high cost perspective without looking at the benefits.
That's a fair point. And uh, you know, I'm curious to know how is the journey for ID Fresh been, and especially, in context of technology, right? How has ID Fresh grown, and how has technology played an enabling role, for you? There's obviously the global expansion. I'm sure there are a lot of capabilities that you all have built to support the India business as well. And so from a finance perspective, and B, overall as a business, would love to hear your perspective on how technology is enabled ID Fresh.
Sure. So, I'm good. Internally, we have a saying, we say ID runs on IT, right? I mean, that's inculcated in everybody, from the salesperson on the ground till the CEO. We say ID runs on IT. You'll be surprised to hear I don't have a person who makes the MIS anymore. The MIS is already there. We don't have on first of the, next month, the MIS is released to everybody. That level of automation and digitization we have done. And I think it was not a choice. I'll tell you, I'll take 2 minutes to explain the ID business model and why we realized even 10 years ago, this is not a journey which we have achieved yesterday. 10 years ago, we realized that unless we have technology powering this business, this cannot run. Three important reasons. One is we of course, you all know ID. We say that there'll be no chemicals, no preservatives, no additives. So it is all natural. Great upside of it is great health, great consumer experience, great customer service. But the downside of it is we get very low shelf life. If you look at the shelf life of our product, it starts from 3 days and the highest is around 7 days. So when you have that kind of shelf life, one decision going wrong can just, impact the whole process. One day's, planning gone wrong with a 3-day shelf life, your product is gone. So we realized that without technology powering it, there is only so much. When we started, we were one city, one category, one product company. Yes, we were able to do it manually on Excel. Today, we are present in 45 cities. We are present in 7 countries. We are, servicing 50,000 outlets. Cannot. I mean, manually, I cannot fathom how we could have done it manually. So what we started doing it 10 years ago, and there is another difference which ID has from any other FMCG company. In a typical FMCG company, one, of course, the shelf life is longer. Two, they have distributors in place, right? I mean, the company gives it to distributor, distributor gives it to a sub-distributor, sub-distributor gives it to the, retailer, and then retailer to the consumer. We had two challenges here. We said one, of course, there is a margin which gets diluted from the middleman perspective, but that the concern which was larger than that is by the time the customer gets the product, it will be already 1 day old or 2 days old if you have to go through this whole chain. So we decided that unlike any other company in the world, probably, or in at least in India for sure, we will go direct to the retailer. I mean, today there are some companies which are D2C, which of course is a further evolved version. You straight away give it to the consumer. But when we launched, internet or e-commerce was not so much. So we went direct to retail. When you go direct to retail, then you have, depending on how many outlets you serve today, for example, we serve 40,000 outlets every day. So just imagine for going to 40,000 outlets every day, and we try to bill every SKU there. So if I run my yesterday's sales report, it will be 40,000 invoices into, let's say, even 3 SKUs. If I have billed per invoice, there will be 120,000 lines in 1 day sales report. My month sales report would not come in one Excel sheet, right? So then how do I do? I cannot have Excel. I cannot have a situation where it is not automated. That is from the finance perspective. But let me go back a little bit from manufacturing perspective. How do they know what to manufacture? And if they manufacture more, 3 days gone, product is wasted. Let's look at it from a sales perspective. How do they know how much to sell, where to sell? So what we started doing 10 years ago, and today what we have is a gold mine which is helping us grow, is we have day-wise, store-wise SKU revenue data for the last 10 years. Because we go every day and because we replenish, we also have, of course, there is a concept of primary sales, secondary sales, and tertiary sales. Because we go to the stores every day, I have the stock in hand yesterday, I have the stock in hand today, I know what the tertiary sale is for that outlet. With that, we have built a prediction engine. I mean, these are all done when AI was not there. Today, it would be a lot more easier. We have built a prediction engine which says that on a Sunday in that side of the town, because of ABC factors, given that it is winter, if there is going to be chances of rain, we think this is the uh, quantity which this particular store will sell based on last 10 years data. And of course, we keep improving the engine with further giving more inputs. Today, what we have done is we have removed, we said human intervention is not there. If the tool is, because of course we are relying on 10 years data, we are saying if the tool is saying that in this particular store in Indranagar of Bangalore, 15 packets will sell, you please go and sell 15. Don't sell more because we know it will not sell and it will expire. Don't sell less because you'll run out of stock. Now, as soon as the salesperson is going and punching, because it's direct to retail, he goes and punches in the revenue every day. As soon as he goes and punches in, manufacturing gets an alert that 15 packets are sold, so please produce 15 more. I mean, they don't produce 15 more, but they accumulate these over the first half of the day, and second half we produce. Midnight we ship, early morning the product reaches the retailer. Just imagine this whole thing being done manually. I mean, it would have collapsed. I think we would have shut down. We would know what to do. I'll give you one more example on expiries, because the product has such a short shelf life. I take 10 years ago when we used to sell 100 packets to the market, 95 used to expire. Because we didn't know what to place, where to place, how to place, when to place, how much to place. 95 would expire because in 3 days they would not have got sold. Today, these numbers are of course available in public domain. We can go to the ROC reports. Our expiries are less than 5%. Yeah, from 95 to 5. This journey was, I mean, even I cannot fathom how we would have done it because we didn't know how much to place. The tool told us, no, don't place it there because in that store the returns are very high. In this store there's metro work going on, so we think the footfalls are going to be low. In this store there is a Pongal there in Tamil Nadu, so we think that it will impact the footfalls. Or a Ganesh Chaturthi in Maharashtra, so we think it will be different. It's very very difficult and impossible. Not only in India, now we are in, for example, Kuwait. They'll say that okay, Kuwait there is an election going to happen, and this is the, or when there was a football in Saudi, they said okay, these are the changes which will happen. Sorry, Qatar. They said there is a match on these days in these stadiums, and the traffic is restricted. Impossible to even fathom. So that is how technology has helped us and continues to help us in powering the business, running the day-to-day business. Today, we have, of course, everything is automated and digitized. I can sit here and look at every single van of where it is, because we do again direct to retail, right? We have 500 and odd number of vehicles which we own, and they go on the to the stores every day. Every single van is tracked. There is a route which is given to them, that go to this route, start at this time, this is the route you have to follow, this is the store you have to stop. Any van which deviates from them, it becomes red. I mean, if it deviates from either the route given or the number of quantity to be placed. It is also geofenced, so they cannot do an invoicing, etc., unless they are inside the store.
Mm.
Right. So he has to go inside, he has to do the billing, because he can say otherwise I went and there was no demand, right? I mean, we faced this. They will say, yeah, I went and there was no demand. You wouldn't have gone at all. So this is another learning. We said, no, you have to go inside the store and punch the stock in the store and take a photo of that. Then we ensured that he really is going inside. Once he goes inside, he'll definitely sell, right? So things like that. I mean, I can go on and on in terms of
Yeah.
how it has further helped. But yes.
No, this is very powerful. I mean, this truly sort of symbolizes the whole philosophy of ID running on IT, right? I mean, this is as technology enabled a business as I've heard in a while. So, very interesting. And if I were to sort of bring it back to finance, right? And when you think about your own function, what's your view of where finance is, when it comes to, let's say, the evolution, right? Like what you would want an ideal finance team to be doing versus, where it is today. Um, how far along do you think you've reached in the technology enablement and digitization journey at ID?
See, I mean, at ID, I think we have reached a very very high level of automation and digitization. But overall, when I look at, because we are part of so many groups, communities, we keep meeting other folks. I mean, we have a group where there are 500 CFOs, and we keep meeting. I think it's a transition and it's a journey. What I feel proud of, that everybody is moving in the right direction. Maybe we have reached here, and I'm not saying we have reached everywhere that we could reach, but I think we have, at a fairly evolved stage. We will continue to evolve. There are companies who have probably semi matured, but I see that they're still moving towards mature. There are companies who are slightly more behind, a bit more traditional ones are probably behind, and I see that they are also at least keen to move forward. It's a transition, it takes time, and every stage of companies, I mean, um, what I was trying to, in fact, I had met some, like you said, we mentor some people, right? So I was meeting a cohort of guys who are explaining that we do this, and every month we create all of this, everything. I said, see, technology will help you as long as you implement it right. Just investing in technology doesn't help. I mean, I can have a tool, I can have a BI, I can have, but unless you really implement it right, B, rigorously follow it. That has been my very, very, once very advice, I would say, maybe advice is a slightly stronger word, suggestion probably, is that any tool will not help you unless you help yourselves, unless you really ensure that the tool is working and keep doing those corrections, those edits, those modifications in that tool. It doesn't help over a period. In fact, it becomes redundant. A tool which has worked for me very, very well. When I met another guy, he said, yeah, you told I implemented it, is just about okay. I think it is about okay because you didn't use it. You didn't make your teams use it. You didn't make your peers use it. You didn't make your management use it. Again, I'm giving another example of ID. This is again, in public domain, we don't have Excel MIS. We abandoned Excel. We said only then you guys will use the tool. Till we have Excel, everyone will keep having their own versions of Excel, and it will not work. So we canceled Microsoft licenses. We said only then you all will, including my finance team. I said only then. Of course, some of them will need, and then we will have some restrictive. We have 2,500 people, but we have maybe only 100 Microsoft licenses. Those 100 are really essential to do some planning, etc., which we completely respect. But for the rest, we said it is on the tool. You please need anything, you go and check it there. You need anything, tell us, we will do it. Because otherwise, no, we were seeing that we are going on doing it again and again. And then I am a strict believer of doing it right is hard, doing it over is harder. And technology eliminates that. I think technology completely eliminates the doing it over wala part. I mean, of course, it does it right. But when we do it manually, every time it was, we were doing it over. No, 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 this was different last time and all of that. So that is where ID is. We probably have few more miles to go, and then I see there are every other company who are, some of them maybe even ahead of ID. I see these quick commerce companies, etc., are probably even ahead,
Hmm. Hmm.
and uh, and some of them are probably slightly behind. Some of them are a little more behind. Only thing I can take pride on from the fraternity perspective is everyone is wanting to reach here. That
Yeah.
itself is one large goal achieved.
I think that's a big change potentially. I don't know if COVID was a big driver. I think it was, but the conversations with finance leaders around digitization certainly has changed in the last couple of years. So you're in that sense, I echo what you're saying. I think everybody wants to sort of get to that goal at different stages of their journey in getting there. Um, and when you think about the role of the CFO, right? And I think that's where you pointed out that um, somebody needs to play that role of change maker, or really champion this in house, because adopting a tool is non-trivial. Signing up for a tool is easy, but getting the people to adopt it is where a strong change maker is needed, or strong champion is needed internally.
Yeah,
Um, and I think in our experience also, the cases where implementations take longer is when there is no one owner or champion who's driving that internal evangelization of, why this is of value. Uh,
yeah,
that's a great point. And how do you sort of, when you think about the kind of, you now with technology available, the other question that teams often grapple with is, can we just do this in house? Can we make some small customization in our existing ERP, or can we implement some small tool and solution here and there to just ease the process for our team members, or even sometimes build it in house. Some companies have an in-house IT team as well.
yeah,
So how do you think about the make versus buy solution, trade-off? Because there are also specialized SaaS solutions in the market, technology solutions that are solving specific areas of the finance function. So that make versus buy call, how do you take typically?
sure.
And make here, by the way, I'm also referring to, like, like these customizations that happen inside the ERP sometimes, right? So, um,
Got it. Got it. So see, there are two. I mean, it'll always be a mix. I don't think it can always. The answer is always make or always buy. There is a trade-off which you need to decide on how much to make and how much to buy. I mean, not everything can be bought, not everything can be made. Particularly for example, for me, at least I say that ERP is not even digitization. Yeah, ERP is just carrying your bag when you go to office, if you or coming to office, for example. Is not digitization. So ERP is not even that in my view. ERP is just so below hygiene even that over a period, if I look at last again 10 years back, right? I mean, I'm just looking at this last decade, how things have moved. When ID decided that we want to digitize, I think we had to make it because there was no buy available, right? And so we traveled this journey alone of having the prediction engine, having the data engine, having the repository of, like I said, store, SKU, category, channel, location, geography, data, day on day. It took a long time for us to build, and because we were in that era when we built it. If I see it today, if you have to, with the benefit of hindsight, and if I had to do it all over again, I think a lot of what we have done over last 10 years is today available also. And one thing which has changed this is the whole SaaS wala concept. I think SaaS is such a catalyst in this whole digitization thing. Plus players, the tech players, there are again, same, my favorite, I'm going to three pillars of this. One is, of course, you always make it yourself, which we did over the last 10 years. The way we see it today, there are companies like including CashFlo or many more of these tech. And because we are talking about finance, I'm saying fintech, right? Who are willing already, who have a product which is as it is probably useful for you, or they offer very high level of customization of what may suit you. You know, I have at least come across for all of the solutions which we need now. Of course, there is a possibility to make, and we also continue to make some. But the buy is become so much more easier. A with SaaS, B is because the tech companies of today or the startups of today are investing time, resources, effort, money in understanding the problem of companies like ours and having a solution. Either a ready-made solution, plug and play, customize, very high level of customization, or even they're willing to make. So I think it is sometimes even faster if they make on my behalf, because when they make on my behalf, they are able to sell it to 10 more IDs. And therefore the whole cloud concept works there also. The third part to it is today, earlier when I was, or when ID was doing it, we were trying to do everything on our own. The customers were, typically the Kirana, the general trade stores or some large format stores who were not as digitized as we were, and therefore there was no data exchange that was happening, or there was no technology exchange that was happening, or there was no platform exchange which was happening. What I see today, again, very, very beneficial for all of us is even the traditional chains, and more so the quick commerce, e-commerce chains have so much more technology which helps us build our requirements much faster, because we get a lot of data for them from them. For example, I'll take one live example which we have been tracking this week at ID. From almost all of these e-com, quick com players, we get hourly inventory data. Like, at 7 p.m. in this distribution center of Swiggy, this was your inventory. At 8 p.m., this was the inventory. At 9 p.m., this was the inventory. This has helped us so much in our own planning, our own distribution, or delivery to their, what we call pods, right? They call them pods, point of deliveries. So these quick commerce companies have many point of delivery, and they say, you deliver it here, from here I'll deliver it to the customer. Now that they are helping us with that data of, in this pod at this hour of the day, this was your inventory, it has helped us sharpen our deliveries even faster. That helps us serving the customer better. Once you serve the customer better, naturally you know that the business will continue to grow. 10 years ago, I was trying to solve, when I was meeting, let's say, a modern trade channel, let's say Reliance, I was trying to figure out a solution for myself. And Reliance was trying to figure out a solution for themselves. The change today I see is that I am trying to solve something for ID, and even Swiggy is trying to solve something, or I'm trying to solve something for the customer, and Swiggy is also trying to solve something for that same customer. And therefore, when we join hands together in terms of how technology can help this, we are able to achieve far level of digitization and technology adoption. And the ultimate beneficiary is the consumer. And we all know when the consumer benefits, the company, the business benefits.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that, SaaS, make, buy. I think it's a combination. It's a combination of the whole ecosystem. I see the ecosystem has grown so much over
Yeah.
the last couple of years in terms of the company who is doing itself growing. These, tech, fintech, SaaS players, including Cashflow and many more, playing a very pivotal role. And the third bucket, which is the customers whom, or which are the partners whom we work with, either on the vendor side or the customer side, evolving so much.
Yeah.
It is helping a lot on this whole make, buy, SaaS, all of this.
And in all of this, right, with all this evolution happening on the technology front, and of course, a lot of the stuff that's happening in AI in the last 12 to 24 months, uh, how does that impact the kind of skill sets that are needed in the finance function going forward? When you are hiring today, are you looking for different kind of skill sets from people in your team? How should one think about capabilities needed in finance in context of technology?
Sure. So Ankur, I am a great believer of it's the will that matters, not the skill. Right? I mean, we have all adopted, right? When I started, I didn't have all of these skills which I have today, but I had the will. So when I hire someone, I really look at the will. Of course, skill is required and that is a hygiene, but I see that if the skill is there and the will is not there, it still doesn't work. But if the will is there and skill is not there, it has always worked for me. And these are all every, like you said, AI is just 12, 24 months old, including, probably me also, I don't know so much. But because the will is there and because the will in my team or the, larger finance fraternity is there, I think they are acquiring those skills and they'll continue to acquire. The skills will have to continue to change. What was relevant 10 years ago is not even, is not even, forget relevant, is not even known today for that matter. People don't even know. On this, I'll give you a real life example. I read somewhere, in the early, probably before Google Maps and all of that was there in the US, when you join army, no, there was a course called cartography, which is the skill of map making. A
Hmm.
guy who is joining Army, Navy, or Air Force can miss any class, but he cannot miss the map making, the cartography class. That was because there were no maps, there was no Google Maps, there was no GPS, there was no coordinates. They had to be very skilled in that to be able to make the map on the war or on the front, on the when they are on the front, and then navigate them through. Today, when I read cartography, I had to Google it. Okay, what does cartography mean? From a class being inevitable for a army man, right? Making maps, joining a class for making maps for a guy who is going to join army or navy. To today, not even knowing what cartography means. That is the shift we are seeing, and
Yeah.
that is the only will help you. Therefore, adopt those skills
Hmm.
and navigate you through. If you don't have the will, in any case, it is gone. If you don't have the skill, I don't see it as a problem. It can always be acquired.
Yeah. So I guess the message for finance professionals is don't worry about your specific skill sets today. Worry about the attitude you bring with yourself to upscale yourself and adapt
Absolutely,
essentially.
absolutely. Because even if you have the skills today, tomorrow a very different set of skills will be required.
Yeah.
And day after tomorrow, another skill set will be required. Unless you have the will to acquire that skill, I think that's the way at least I see it, and I have been doing in my last 20 years.
Fantastic. Just to round up today's session, Jaipal, if I had to ask you, what's the one big technology bet that you are taking or that you're really bullish on? What would that be? Either in context of ID or even otherwise.
So one, I mean, I'm not getting into the larger theme of the whole AI, etc., which the world is evolving. But at least what we are doing, we are saying that, let's say, demand planning. I'm taking one example, and that's a bet we are taking this year. In fact, we are in the process of our next year's AOP, which is the session I'm going to just join after this call. I'm saying, let us, why don't we, if there is a demand forecasting tool which has demanded this, can we test no human intervention and where we reach, right? Of course, that's a very high level of automation which we are driving, and I am particularly, like you said, that change maker. I'm saying that can we stick to it and see it for a month? Of course, we'll see a lot of resistance. See, beyond a point, one of the sales teams asked me that then what will we do? I mean, then it's just a delivery, because if the whole planning is, we stick to that, then it is just delivering. I said, no, no, there'll be a lot of, right, the account management, the relationship management, there's a lot of other work, and you can actually, I feel, in business can go up if you don't focus on how much to sell, but if you focus on how to sell, where to sell, whom else to sell, and
Yeah.
that will be your role instead of focusing on how much to sell. And that is a big bet we are taking at ID this year, that we will not allow human intervention. We will go with whatever the tool predicts and see. Maybe we'll change. Maybe it will not work. And after a quarter, we are willing to, go back if we think this is not working. But that's one big change we are seeing. That no.
Awesome. I love the philosophy of really truly sticking to the experimentation here, right? It's so easy to say, well, let's try it out, but then on ground you cut corners on the experiment, but it's hard to sort of stay the course.
But I'll tell you, Ankur, we also see these are all big bets, and we all run large businesses, right? We cannot allow these experiments to impact it so badly. So what we did is, for the last 3 months, we said let's have data. There is a system prediction, And sales team, we are saying, okay, you predicted this. And of course, actual is actual. Numbers don't lie. So the final actual is actuals. So for the last 3 months, we said for the 90 days. For the last 90 days, we said what the system said, what the sales team said, and what actual is. And we said, where is the mean? I mean, the standard deviation of that is it tilting more towards the sales team's forecast or is it tilting more towards the system forecast? See, because I also need to ensure that the team buys it. Team is aligned, team is really accepting it. So once you go to them with data saying that this is last 90 days data, and you see that, of course, at times you have been right, but there have been more instances where the system was right. So if we can try and make the tool or the digitized part of it more and more and more right over, maybe it'll take time, and it's an iterative process. But if we already see that the standard deviation is deviating towards the tool, then why don't we all work towards that? And we all spend our time, effort, resources, energy in a much more evolved place where the tool cannot play a role.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I think it's great. I think committing to the experiment is important, and then let the data speak for itself, right? So,
But
yeah,
before that, be
awesome.
prepared for. All I'm saying is just don't commit to the experiment because businesses can get impacted. Be prepared for with the data of the past to have some sort of conviction that this experiment is going to work.
Yeah, yeah. Which is, I mean, build that hypothesis going in, and then
And we may
plan
fail. We may
appropriately.
still fail. We may still fail. But I'm saying try and fail, but don't fail to try.
Yeah, fair. On that note, Jaipal, we'll pause here, and I think there are a bunch of questions that have come in from the audience, so maybe we can spend the next few minutes answering those.
Sure.
Thanks for the insightful session. I think very, very practical so far, and I think a lot of takeaways for folks, listening in. So thanks for that.
Thanks, Ankur. My pleasure. And more than practical, they are all realists. So I have all what I spoke today is what we follow, and I
Yeah,
strongly believe in. So therefore,
yeah,
that makes life easy.
yeah. Awesome. Akshay, over to you.
Yeah.
Yes. No, I think that was really, really interesting. I'm sure our audience found it to be interesting as well. We have a couple of questions that have come in, so in the interest of time, I'll get to them ASAP. Uh,
Sure.
the first question was, how long did this commercial model take to build? And would you say that your commercial model, the financial planning, the analysis model that you have today, is a competitive advantage for you within the company as well?
Yeah. So I mean, two questions, right? How long did it take, and is it a competitive advantage? So how long? Like I said, it of course took us very long because when we started, we were all alone. The other two pillars, which are today's SaaS players, today's fintech companies, or today's companies, which are many of these startups, which are giving us that capability, were not existent, and therefore it take probably for us. I mean, we have been doing it. We have been doing it for 7 years, and we continue to do. But I think if I have to start all over again today, it will probably take a much shorter time, maybe a year or two, depending on the complexity of the business. Coming to the competitive advantage part, I think we would have, I repeat, we would have shut down without that. So that's the advantage we are talking about. I'm talking about, just being there, or just existential crisis would have come if we did not have this. Is how I would say it. It's much more than a competitive advantage.
Yeah. Okay. Super. We have one question from Ms. Komal Somani. Do you think AI will soon replace the scope for employees in FP&A, or do you think FP&A needs to go hand in hand with AI moving ahead?
See, I don't think it will replace, it will only assist, it will only help. It will probably enable FP&A teams to do something much more sharper, right? I mean, FP&A team doesn't have to take the trial balance and build the P&L. I mean, like I said, today my FP&A team doesn't even build the MIS. Now, it's not about AI, but it's about, having the insights there to start actioning on. And I think that it's going to be so much more helpful for the FP&A teams, particularly, I feel is that the routine, mundane task of ensuring that the balance sheet is tallying to zero, there's not a difference in cash flow, is going to get eliminated. So the entire time, therefore, from now on, can be focused on insights of the outcome of the FP&A team, and then actionables, and then working far more closely. I think FP&A teams, in my view, have actually I long ago I was managing FP&A, so I think FP&A is a very competitive advantage within finance. I think they are the closest to business. using these insights, using these actionables, if they can really work with the business, uh, I feel, they'll probably slowly, the FP&A folks will get into business rather than continuing with FP&A, and AI is such a boon today to them.
True
Got it.
business partnering in that sense, then, right?
Yeah, that is where we can add value.
Got it. We have the next question from Ms. Surbhi. So first, she says, "Thanks for the amazing session." Her question is, how how do you manage to integrate all systems in one, as the data is different in different forms and at times is different in each system, right? And we've seen this as well, right? That um, there could be like multiple systems measuring the same kind of data, and then you have different sources of truth, right? So how do you manage something like that, where you have like different types of data coming in and in different forms, and how do you unify that?
That's right. Yeah. So I'll tell you what we have done in my experience. Of course, there could be better answers. Some of the technology companies can give better answers, but what we have done and what has helped us a lot, we said, you are right. Surbi, your question is absolutely right. There are so many sources of data and everything flowing in. What we did is we created a data lake. And we said it can be hundreds of systems, but what will be there is the data lake from which all of us will work. And therefore, the output tool, which could be a BI, or for that matter, I mean, because we are finance folks, I'm saying a 2A to 3B RICO or a ITC credit or all of it should only pick up data from this data lake. Nothing is linked to individual systems. I mean, production can want to run some ISO related, some FSSAI, all of those things they can run. But we say, okay, this is the data which we want from that system, and we bring it into the data lake. Now, every output system which the users use are all linked only to the data sources, and none of them are linked to the inputs. So there has to be APIs which pull data from those various tools and softwares and automation, dashboards in any of those systems. But everything is then in the data lake, and we keep creating multiple tables inside the data lake to say that this data should be stored in this way, in this format. And for the same data, sometimes we have multiple different types of tables. For example, for the revenue data, we have maybe 25 tables, the same data, but converted into 25 tables. Now it becomes very easy for the FP&A folks to pull out, whatever they need from that data lake. Some of it could have come from the sales database, some of it could have come from the production database, the cost could have come from the purchase database, the distribution cost could have come from the supply chain database, but it is all in one table in one data lake, and that has helped us. I don't know whether that is the best system or not. Companies like today's startups probably could have a better answer on this. This is
Yeah.
the model I have followed in 2, 3 of my roles, and this has always helped.
Got it. Yeah, I think it's about creating a source of truth, right? That like teams can align on ultimately. Because if you don't have that source of truth, that it's true that like you will have different types of data, different kinds of data, at times conflicting data as well. But if you align on one of those data sources being the source of truth, then that makes everyone's life a lot easier.
Yes.
Super. The next
Yes.
question that we have is. Dear Jaipal, I understand that books are closed on the first day, but there are so many finance activities which we need to do to close the books. So was there any change in process which was implemented? Example, closing sales by 28th of the month, right? So that you can close the books on the first day. Yeah. I think you'd mentioned that you share the MIS on the first day of each month. So I think this is
Yes.
coming from there.
Yes. Yes. So no, we don't close. I mean, sales. If there was a 32nd day, I would have ensured that sales continue till 32, not only 28th or 29th. We say that please create a 32nd date and please book sales, because that is why we all aspire for. So we continue to punch sales. I'll tell you how it works. We have created an engine behind. In fact, Ankur, this is also one more question which you said. I'm saying I'll release a daily MIS. Yeah, of course, salary, etc. There will be few entries which will get punched on a monthly basis only. But we'll create a daily MIS. I mean, I don't, why month? I mean, how did a month get defined? There is a reason why we defined a month, right? Why not 15 days, 45 days, 60 days? It could have been any period, but for some reason we defined a month. I am saying that except for some monthly entries, for which also if we can find a way that the recurring entries of the last month get posted now for the time being, and it gets reversed and the actual entries come in, can we have a daily MIS? So since there is nobody preparing the MIS, I forgot the name of the person who asked this question. But
It's
because
actually
it's
anonymous, so that's
Sure,
fine. That's okay.
no problem. So because the system is preparing the MIs, right? Until 12 a.m. on 31st, you can punch sales. And at 1 a.m., I'll have to just run that, okay, do the MIs. It does all the calculations and it gives me the MIs. Unless we have missed to post some entries, which is what we at the finance team, we are strengthened. We said 29th onwards, you please start reviewing, whether your entries are posted. Is anything missed? GL by GL. We have said that, okay, in this GL, generally we all understand, right? I mean, things will be more or less similar, or there'll be spikes for which we have reason. So we start that on 29th itself of reviewing every GL. Is an entry missed? Is there a rent which you have not booked? Is there electricity bill? Is there, you know, sales? Of course, it's all automated, so you don't really punch sales. Sales is auto booked.
Yeah.
Naturally, salaries there are, we all understand because the audience here is largely finance. We have to just ensure that entries are done on time. One more thing which I've done with my team, that every day is a month end. You please complete everything that you need to do today, and then please, if you have completed everything by 3 p.m., please go home. If you have not completed till 9 p.m., please complete. So we cannot post entries pertaining to today, tomorrow. Everything, inventory, purchase, GRNs, revenue, expenses, reimbursements, whatever it is. We are saying if we have to close, let's just assume today is the month and if you have to close, it is closed. That has helped.
Yeah. Okay. We have one more anonymous question. Can you please tell us, maybe name a few digital tools being used in the finance and account functions, or can you recommend some tools, right? Which could be used in the finance and accounts function?
I mean, see, that will really depend on your use case. I don't think there are any straightforward answers for, because the business is so complex today. All of it will depend on what your use case is. For us, like I said, we have a mix of build versus buy, and our use case is very, very different. But there are tools available for each of the separate use cases. We'll have to understand that a little more better than me recommending one particular, saying that this is very good or that is not so good. Very
Yeah.
difficult to.
Yeah. No, I think if there are more questions around this, this again came from an anonymous attendee. So if you have a more specific question, please provide more context, and you can write to us at marketing@cashflow.io, and we'll get an answer from Jaipal and sort of come back to you. Okay. Last question in the interest of time. I wanted. Okay, this is actually a very industry-specific question, so I'm not sure if this is the right forum. But the question is, how can something like a daily MIS work in let's say the construction industry, right, or certain other industries where maybe daily MISs don't make sense. The number of sales and collection we can arrive on a daily basis, but revenue is difficult to track on a daily basis, right? So. But I think like a lot of this is down to context as well, right? Like just because ID has implemented something does not mean that, I mean, every company will be able to. I think it's about understanding what you can take away. But yeah, happy to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree with the person who has asked the question. Maybe it is not even relevant for that industry, but I'll tell you where it need not be a full MIS. The reason behind when I implemented this whole daily thing is I don't like surprises, right? I don't want to know at the end of the month that my profitability has gone down or that expense has gone up, or the margins in this month are lower. I mean, what can I do if you tell me on 31st that the margins are lower? There is nothing that I can do. The reason why I therefore moved to a daily is saying that, okay, margins were supposed to be X percentage and they are broadly there. If they are not there, we immediately double click what happened so that that can be changed. The only reason why I'm saying daily, of course, it's like, Akshay also mentioned, it's on the depends on context of whether you want or not. I have done it just to avoid surprises because we were getting a lot of surprises and we were thinking that I'm completely clueless on what else to do now. Okay, you are saying margin is 28% instead of 30% what it was supposed to be, or then what do I do now? I can do something only for the next month. So this is where it helped to avoid surprises, to just have, things that, okay, it is tracking in the right direction. It need not be 100% accurate MIS. And like you are rightly saying, the person who asked the question that sales would not have got posted, etc., etc. But whatever can be reviewed to avoid surprises is a great addition which finance fraternity can do to the business and to the management by avoiding any surprise at the end of the month.
Got it. Got it. No, thanks a lot. I think that wraps up our questions as well. And I think just in time for the end of the webinar as well. So if any of you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Our email ID is marketing@cashflow.io. I repeat, marketing@cashflow.io. Any questions for Ankur or Jaipal, we'll address them and come back to you with answers afterwards. As for today, Jaipal, thanks a lot for joining us. I think it's been a very, very insightful session, a very, very interesting read. Even for someone who's not part of the corporate finance team, right? I think the way you think about technology in finance, the way you think about planning, about analysis, it's a good takeaway for any team, I think. So thanks a lot for your time. Ankur, thanks a lot for hosting today's session as well. I think it's been fantastic. We've got like multiple feedback actually in the Q&A as well as in the chat box that the quality of the questions was great as well. So thanks a lot for driving today's
Only
session.
10 seconds, Akshay. I see one question which they're saying CFO function is a cost saving function and doesn't invest in evolving.
Oh yeah.
It is just because that is a question which sort of hit me also. So it is on how we project, right? If we project CFO as chief future officers, and and say that it's not about cost saving, right? It's about cost management is what we do. We don't do cost saving. I would recommend, because all of you are CFOs and accounts and finance here, it is on how you present yourself. If we say we are cost saving, then we will always be cost saving. I don't think we are cost saving, cost management. And that is our skill set, which is why the organization depends on us to do the right cost management. It is not just cost saving. And I feel CFOs should project themselves as chief future officers, and that will help yourself build your seat on the table with the management and not project ourselves as cost saving. Thank you. Just this one question I wanted to attend because
Super.
this was this hit me when it came.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. No, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Jaipal. I think for parting thoughts as well. Superb. I think we'll continue to have webinars like this going ahead as well. But again, thanks a lot, Jaipal. Thanks a lot, Ankur, for today's session. And in the interest of time, I think we'll end the webinar right now. But hoping that our audience enjoyed today and you continue to attend future webinars as well. Thank you.
No, thanks everyone. And in case you guys have the audience here, if you all have topics that you think we should cover in future webinars, do let us know, and we'll try and set those up as well. Thank you, Jaipal. Look forward to meeting you soon.
Absolutely a pleasure. Thank you, Ankur and Akshay, for having me. It was really a privilege. Thanks again.
Super. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.